And we are back, the Fairness Doctrine. By the way, I just want to mention a quick note here before, Patrick, you come in.
We have a phone caller, guys.
We have a phone caller, and that is a WorldNet Day. The Media Matters blog is attacking me by name for my WorldNet Daily column about George Soros.
We have someone on the line?
We have a caller. Hello, you're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Thanks for calling. Welcome to the program. You're listening to you're on the Fairness Doctrine.
Okay. I don't have a question for you, though.
Would you like to make a comment? This is we're with Judith Reisman, the author of Sexual Sabotage.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm not prepared. I'll call back.
All right. Well, thanks for calling. By the way, Joe, what's the number for people to call?
617-328-8700.
Thanks so much,
He's
Joe.
not prepared.
That's
nice.
At least I appreciate the call anyway, so please...
I appreciate when people say they're not prepared.
You're welcome to join the program. Patrick?
Yes. I agree with Judith. I appreciate it when people say, I'm not prepared, maybe I should call back. That's, I know a lot politicians who should say that.
Oh, indeed.
I'm actually intrigued now.
Yeah,
what he
right.
wants to talk
I hope he does call back. I'm very intrigued. Well, as far as this particular study goes, my initial thought isn't making child pornography abuse of children, and so that just sort of negates the whole report.
Well, they didn't seem to notice that.
Yeah.
Small detail. But
right.
Unfortunately, that's the point, Pat, and that is that this field, as it's discipled out of the Kinsey research, and there is no other place it got discipled from, okay, that they lose all sense of proportion at all. And, I'm looking at, Milton himself was a specialist, recognized expert at the Institute of the Advanced Study of Human Sexuality in San Francisco, which was a Kinsey clone, and actually the dean was one of Kinsey's lovers' co-authors, Wardell Pomeroy. But that particular organization, which has been anointing most all of our PhDs and our master's degree people and so forth in human sexuality, that particular organization has advocated all along and still does that children, that is people, should not be, quote, disadvantaged by age, and they should be able to engage in pornographic productions, in prostitution, and sex with anybody that they choose. Now, you hand over research to these folks, and you're going to get what they got.
Judith, I don't doubt anything you're saying, but these are really serious charges.
Yes, aren't they?
You have to back them up. But
yeah, I can read to you right now from the basic...
Well, that's okay. All right.
Oh, okay.
I just wanted to make sure that you were backing up.
I always do.
This brings up sort of a larger question for me, and there's this constant assault on children in our society.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know, and this has nothing to do with what you're talking about, and I'm not drawing a parallel, but it's in the larger picture. Did you know that children in the 4th grade in Atlanta schools are required to correctly label images of the Golden Arches and Coca-Cola?
Excuse me?
It's constant, this push of everybody's philosophy and everybody's agenda.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with
child sex? It doesn't have anything to do with this.
I understand the connection. There's no question about it.
I don't.
Yeah, has anybody here ever read the McGuffey Readers? Do you remember the McGuffey Readers?
No, I'm not quite that old.
Well, these
and I don't think you are either.
No, but I got copies of the McGuffey Readers. It's so embarrassing. I mean, these children way back in the end of the 1800s, 1900s, these folks were learning reading, writing, and arithmetic in ways that we simply have no comprehension anymore. And they weren't labeling, Coca-Cola bottles, not that you could have at the time. But, I understand your point. And it is a valid point, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of dumbing down our kids with all sorts of bizarre, trivia, sex, of course, being one of it, but the commercialization of our children being another prominent one.
I don't know. I think there's a difference between learning about the Golden Arches and learning about bestiality. But
of course.
Maybe I'm just being quaint here. I don't know. Am I being old-fashioned? I don't know.
No.
Right.
But Pat's point is well taken. You are are deviating. You're taking them out of anything at all that is relevantly cognitive and putting them into a consumer pattern. Actually, in a way, it's very relevant because as our kids become consumers of sex, they're consumers of Coca-Cola or whatever else, we're creating these consumer children that can't really think but simply respond. And, of course, the sexual part of it's the worst. There's no question about that. They get venereal diseases of every kind. They are traumatized. They can't learn. I find it fascinating when we pull down the Ten Commandments from the walls in our schools because, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, that was a problem. They might learn from those things, but we've ended up putting up all these commercial ads and AIDS prevention posters with these sexy guys on them. So what does that tell us? I mean, I find that to be fascinating.
It's like reefer madness
too, and like I say, there's this continual assault from all sides on children, and we get it from religious organizations, commercial organizations. We get it from the organizations you've been talking about here, and I'm not sure what to do about this because schools are handled at the local level with the local school boards. And frankly, you get people on school boards who have agendas, and you've identified some. I've identified some. This constant fight in the South over evangelicals getting on school boards and trying to shove creationism. There's
Patrick, we could talk about that separately, but right now, and I'd love to debate that issue, as you know, but right now we're talking about the sexual agenda being promoted to kids. What do you think about that? How about getting specific here rather than try to draw in other people who have nothing to do with this topic?
Well, Chuck, you're really good at going off topic, so I get to do it occasionally, too, and I'm talking about the larger question here, and that is, why are we always assaulting our children with other
So you've already asked it. Now let's get to the topic.
Okay.
What about the sexual education?
That's part of the topic.
Well, I do think,
and you've mentioned it. My question
I do think the larger question is the sexual assault of our children, and I do think that that's occurring in our schools without any question at all. And it's so ignorant, or maybe it's purposefully, and not just ignorant, because the human brain is no way designed, and we know that. We're talking about age 21 to 25, when these kids are really capable of planning and thinking through these bizarre sexual things that are being shoved down their throats, and that's sort of an interesting way to put it.
Of course, Judith, we have to also keep in mind that there's a larger environment here, and that's the commercial media, which uses sex to sell stuff to kids constantly.
Sure, of course, but you see the commercial media, at least you could say, well, parents are saying, no, that's a bad thing. But when the children go into the classroom and teacher tells them about oral sodomy and how to do all this sort of stuff, and holds out the cucumber and puts the condom on the cucumber for the little 8-year-old, and I've got pictures of that, then we're talking about the abuse,
right.
Straightforward, violent and vile abuse of children within the school system, and it's as though their parents are putting their imprimatur on it and saying, yeah, this is okay because we send you to this.
I agree, and that should not happen, and neither should the kids open up their coloring books and which are produced by the coal companies who say that alternative energy is no good. Why don't you color this wonderful black coal mine here? We have to get all this kind of stuff out of the schools. We have to get the commercial out of the school. We have to get the inappropriate sex training out of the school. We have to get the religious evangelicals out of the school. We have to let our kids just be kids, and which means that we have to stop our schools from becoming political battlegrounds. And this is just one example of the political battleground that goes on every day in school districts.
The problem with my political battleground, Pat, is that kids get venereal disease of the throat, and kids are sexually abusing one another, and that's traumatizing them and turning them into highly dependent human beings for the rest of their lives who are involved in drug activity and alcoholism because they can't deal with this kind of stuff. So I agree with you totally, and I would say that one of the best ways to do this is for us to go and get that congressional investigation, the Kinsey Research, the Kinsey Institute, that is promoting this kind of vile sexual abuse of our children daily in our schools where they cannot escape it. They're not even allowed to get up and walk out of the door, I mean, in some places, they can't even opt out their kids anymore. So the control is becoming increasingly total, and it's vile, and it's abuse, and that has to be stopped. So I do encourage everybody to call for a congressional investigation of the Kinsey Institute as soon as the new Congress is in place, and I would back that 100,000%.
You know, Judith,
and I would agree with that completely. And while they're at it, they have to investigate all of the commercial and religious invasions of the classroom too.
Yes,
so we're going to have lots of hearings.
You know,
good.
Isn't that great? You know, look, we're here. We could talk about a lot of things that are taught in schools to various people that might be experts on those topics. Patrick, as you know, I've spent a lot of time discussing what Look-Say reading does to young people and new math and some of the other modalities. We've talked about that. And I think those are all legitimate topics, whether children might be, heaven forfend, exposed to belief in God. That's something that maybe people can debate one way or the other. But we have right here someone who happens...
other people's God.
Well, or whatever. The point is that those are issues that could be brought up with experts who specialize in those particular areas of endeavor. Right now, we have with us one of the preeminent experts on sex education. So that's what we're talking about here today. I mean, I would love to get into some of these issues with you that are extraneous and important, and I have. But I want to know to stick to the topic, what we have in front of us with our expert, who has spent 40 years researching not just the Kinsey Institute, but its influence on education.